All right, Wyoming week. Played Nevada last game, played well, won that game. Been running the ball very effectively. Better team than they were last year. You can see the toughness downhill run game that they want to establish showing up. Defensively, 6 returning starters. And then special teams, you know, a lot like we've seen the last couple games, but have been productive in that area as well. So looking forward to getting back out there and getting after it this week in practice and having a great week, and then playing at home on the blue and having a chance to get out there in front of our fans. So with that, open up for questions.
Well, Harsin, obviously the turnovers were a huge factor, but other than that, when you watched the film, what did you see that went wrong in that game the other night?
Yeah, really that. You know, I said it the other night. We played hard. It's just you go from plus 10 or number 2 in the country to having 8 turnovers. That's the key. And, you know, those things we focus on. We spend a lot of time on it. We talk about it quite a bit, and just didn't go our way. So really it comes down to that. Tackling, they did a nice job. They ran hard. They had some things offensively, you know, with their quarterback run game and sweep game that they did a nice job with. We had guys in place, just have to make tackles, you know, and do a little better job of that. I didn't think that we were, you know, poor across the board in tackling. We've had missed tackles in games before, but when you have the turnovers, it's just magnified, you know, in a game like that.
When you do go back and look at it, and again, I know we talked about it a bit after the game, but was it Utah State making plays? Were there things technique-wise that you guys maybe could have tucked it away a little bit better at times, or was there a reoccurring theme, I guess?
Yes, we could have tucked it away better at times. Yeah, I mean, yes. They made plays also. You know, I'm not taking anything away from Utah State. That's a good football team. They made plays. They were well prepared, but yes, you know, when the ball comes out, did you tuck it away better? Yes. Did they make some opportunities? They create some opportunities by getting in there and ripping it out? Yes, they did as well. Tip balls, you know, that's one thing. I mean, if you go, and I always believe this, you know, tip balls are picked balls, and that's what happened. You know, they had guys around the football, and so what you saw in the game, hey, they were around it. We just can't have tip balls in those situations.
I think you guys are 100th in sacks allowed in the country, and I think 117th in negative plays. What are you seeing, you know, from I guess the O-line and just overall in offense, the negative plays? And I know in that game it seemed like a lot of times on first down you'd get, you know, negative 3 yards, and all of a sudden you're in 2nd and 13. How hard have the negative plays been to get something rolling on offense? Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't paid attention. I know we're leading our conference in scoring and offense and all that, so I'm not exactly sure how that has to do with anything statistically.
Usually you start off this press conference with players of the game. Were there players of the game?
There's guys that played well, but we didn't have any players of the game.
The 100th in sacks allowed, that's not concerning at all, or how do you look at that?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors. I think that's just a stat you're looking at. We watched the film, and so, you know, it's obviously has to do with a lot of moving parts in there. But, yeah, keep focusing on that, working on it. But, you know, I'm not exactly sure how the stat plays out, you know, in those type of things.
Any thought the other night to letting Tommy Stewart have a series or changing things up a little bit, or giving Brett a series to kind of calm down a little bit, or just kind of want to stick with him?
No thought of that. Let Brett play through it.
Speaking of that, with Brett, you know, just a freshman, how do you feel like you know, you get that shell shock night when it's going to happen, everything goes wrong? How do you think he'll rebound from it?
Well, I think he already did. You know, he did in that game. It's not, you know, the recovery process was already happening as he was playing. You know, that's the one thing. You know, Brett does a nice job. Not everything is the quarterback's responsibility. And, you know, the one thing that I wanted to make sure of with all of our guys, we didn't go out there and play timid. And at that position in particular, and I thought he responded well. You put yourself in a position where you become more one-dimensional. You're not able to run the football because you got to catch up. but he was still throwing the ball well. He was still making good decisions. He was still standing in the pocket. And, you know, to me, I think that was answering some of those questions on a rough night, you know, already. And, you know, these guys, when the game's over, the one thing I think, you know, for coaches and fans, you know, it sets with you a lot longer than it does with the players, because the reality of it is you have to go play. If you sit there and dwell on it, oh, what happened and woe is me, you're not preparing for the next game. And the bottom line is you got Wyoming coming up, and you got another opponent that's really good that you got to go face, and you've got to be ready when you go out there and play. And so I think you take it, you learn from it. All right, what happened? This is the reality of it. All right, my opportunity is next week when we play against Wyoming if you're a player, and that's really how you have to think. And I think our guys have done a good job of that, flipping the switch. You know, they had a good practice on Sunday, and I fully expect them to be out there ready to go on Tuesday.
Last year, you guys had a tough game against Air Force. It was kind of similar with the turnovers. You were able to bounce back, run things off. How can the experience of last year's team help this year?
Well, I think the experience of, you know, what did happen and then the position that we ended up in, whether that happens or not, you know, our focus from last year because of that game has always been 1-0 each and every week. That didn't change. There was nothing that we did differently going into Utah State, nothing we assumed. We didn't take anything off or just go out there and think that we were going to show up and play a great game. So that game has really helped us from that point on, you know, with everything we've done in every single game. And unfortunately, we had a similar situation happen this last week. So what do? You regroup. We know that we can play better football. We know that if we take care of the ball, we'll be competitive. And it comes down to those simple things.
With, you know, prior to last week, Brett was a kid that, you know, it didn't seem like there were too many growing pains. And just kind of curious, I mean, obviously there not much more misfortune could have happened in that game for you guys as a team. And we just kind of learned from a 19-year-old that, you know, not a lot was going your guys' way, but, you know, continued to kind of stay in there. And I mean, you throw into the game with 50 passes, which, you know, that doesn't happen too often around here.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, not much different. Fully what he's been doing. You know, he competed the entire game. And, you know, that's the one thing. I mean, that's what you're looking for, you know, with everybody on the football field. Things didn't go our way. We lost a football game. Did we keep competing? Yes. Did anybody fold the tent? No. Was it our best performance? By no means, you know. But you want to see guys, you know, continue to keep playing. I mean, we had a 4th down stop at the end of the game. And, you know, that says a lot to me about, hey, at least we're staying in there and we're battling. We're going to win the game? Absolutely not. But we're still competing, and that all is going to show up later on down the road. You just got to eliminate 8 turnovers in a game is what you have to do. I mean, that's the reality of it. So we can talk about all these other things. It came down to 8 turnovers. That's the bottom line in the game. And we need to not let that happen. If we get one, we need to recover faster. That's probably the learning experience from it, is don't let that happen again. All right, everybody make sure that, you know, we are securing it and all the little details that come into ball security. We got to create it on the other side too. You know, we created turnovers. We weren't just number 2 in the country, you know, before the game because we didn't turn the ball over, you know, in those 4 games. We did it one time, but we also created turnovers. You know, so it's everybody working together. And we know the one stat that really matters, it's that, and it showed up.
You've kept kind of a, you know, fairly positive outlook since we talked to you after the game the other day, and you look around the league. I think one coach called his team's performance an abomination, and another one said his team needed to be hosed off after the game. What is kind of your philosophy to how you handle these situations and how you approach it when things do go that wrong for you?
Yeah, well, the first way I approach it, I start with myself, you know, and I really look at, you know, what did I do during the week that maybe hurt us? And, you know, there's obviously things in there. I go back and you know, I'm going to question things that we did, not much different than what we've been doing, but there's still things in there. When you don't have a great performance, you have to look at and evaluate yourself first. But But the one thing, you know, our coaches, I watch them work, and I watch our team work. I watch them in the weight room. I watch them in the academic center. I watch them out at practice, and I don't have a lot of complaints when it comes to effort, all right, or how they work. And so to me, all right, the performance wasn't there. Okay, well, you know, we know why. And there's a stat in there that probably contributes a lot to why the performance wasn't very good. You also have to go back, too, and see that, you know, in 4 games we had 1 turnover. You know, we really did a great job in that area, really turned things around. And all of a sudden, you know, it changed, you know, just like that. But I like this team, and I like this staff, and I like that they care tremendously about their performance and how they prepare themselves. And it just didn't go that way. So you know, am I upset? I'm absolutely upset. You know, I'm upset for our coaches and players more than anything. At the same time, I know that these guys will bounce back, and I know that they're going to compete hard. I know they're going to get ready for this week of prep and do it the right way. And I'm glad I get to be a part of that. You know, I don't have a team that needs to be hosed off or whatever, you know, somebody else said. I mean, it's just, we need to clean it up. We need to not let that happen. But yeah, trust me, I'm not good with it by any means. And our team and our coaches and everybody in this program knows that. But we got to move on, and we got to prepare to go out there and keep playing. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm only worried about Wyoming. Whatever down the road, you know, may change. It's out of our control right now. All we can control at this point is Wyoming, and that's all we need to focus on, and that's all we're going to focus on this week and talk about is that.
On the 2 plays where you mentioned turnovers, where Brett you know, got hit and fumbled the ball, were those, could he have done something differently? Did the O-line miss some protection there? What would you see on film on the 2 plays where he lost the ball?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, probably hung on to it a little bit too long. You know, anytime you start going backwards in the pocket, you know, it's not really a good thing. And it's probably going to be a throwaway situation. You may escape and get out there and buy a little bit of time, but, you know, you've already pushed yourself back there a little bit. So as far as the ball coming out, you just hang on to it. You know, that's one right there that, you know, he's done a good job on. Just get that second hand on the football. He was talking about coaching a position. Get that second hand on the ball. Hey, we eat it right there, we punt. You know, field position's different. Then they have to go work for it, and they may score again, but they got to go work a lot harder. You know, and a couple others that we got back there, you know, and took a sack. You know, that's just, you know, just movement in the pocket. Now, they did do a good job. They came off the edge, and there was a couple in there that we got beat on protection. We got beat on the one-on-ones. And, you know, we knew going into that game, their edge rushers were very good. Fackrell was one of them. And, you know, that guy's a guy that you got to be aware of, and we were. And we did a pretty good job with him for the most part. But he did get us a couple times, and one of them was costly. You know, that created a turnover there. So, you know, it's a credit to, you know, what they did schematically. It's also a credit to him as a player. But, you know what, we got to do a better job, bottom line. And that is part of protection. It always comes down to that. You know, when you have a guy back there, you know, it's going to throw it. We do have to protect him. And, you know, but it also works together. It's not just the O-line and backs, it's the quarterbacks as well. And so, you know, it's never just one thing. It's everybody working together.
You talked about effort, and just a couple of the effort plays that kind of stood out in the game. One was Shane coming up with that strip, and